Flowing again. Hey there, YouTube. It is Saturday the 14th, and we're doing an experiment tonight. It's just before 10 p.m. here in Portland, and today we're going to test out how well of a stabilization job Microsoft's new Hyperlapse Pro program does, which is now available for the Mac. So if you pay $50, you can remove the watermark. So I assume somewhere there's going to be a watermark, and who knows if it'll even process this whole video. But regardless, this is an experiment, and the reason I'm doing it at 10 is to get differing lighting levels and whatnot to see how much of an effect that plays into things. So we're going to walk from my apartment down to Tillicum Crossing. So the other part of this experiment that I'll be interested in seeing is how well it does, because Sony's Nex 5, I have the 5N, which is one of the earlier models, so it's probably 4 years old or so now. I think I got this in like 2012 or whatever. So Hyperlapse doesn't recognize the camera out of the box, so I don't know how well of a job it can do to begin with. It's made, for stabilizing videos, like shot on a, GoPro camera, or it works with the iPhone 6, that sort of stuff, since those have like additional sensors and things in them, which it can understand the data from. The Nex 5, I think, has an accelerometer, or at least I assume it does, because, it knows if you're doing a landscape or a portrait shot, and if you're actually moving the camera when you do a panorama, so I suspect there's some sort of sensor in here. I don't know how, any of that data is written into video information or whatever. So I'm just holding the camera with one hand, which is what I would typically do as I'm moving around shooting video, unless I really want it to be stable, then I would use two hands. So I'm just gripping it by the grip, and it's at about chest level, I'd say, roughly. And this is the part where we get to wait for the crosswalk to actually cross. So I reckon this will also be kind of a challenge, just getting Hyperlapse to process the video, since the Nex 5 right now is shooting in 60i FX quality, which Sony basically calls Blu-ray disc quality, and so the file is actually written in a file and folder structure similar to that of a Blu-ray disc. So you can't just simply go into Finder and click and drag the video file onto the desktop. Thankfully, Final Cut Pro knows what to do, and so I reckon I'm probably going to have to import the video into Final Cut first, then export it out of Final Cut, or dig around in the Final Cut library, depending on how lazy I feel like being, then throw it into Hyperlapse, and then throw it back into Final Cut, because the other thing is, I don't know if it's going to remove audio. So, again, this is an experiment. And if I like what I see, I will consider paying the $50 to remove the watermark. Otherwise, hey, it's a watermark, I can deal with it. Since, as far as I know, that's really all that paying the $50 does for the actual license. As far as I can tell, you can fully use Hyperlapse otherwise, without putting in a license key. But I might be wrong on that. So as you can probably see right now, we're in just, a normal street lit area outside. We started in the staircase, which probably had better lighting than this did. And now we're going down a bit of a hill here as we loop down to River Place. So now the camera is probably bouncing around a bit more. So from what I can see on the display, the right side is just totally pitch black. So again, we'll see how well Hyperlapse does. Now I'm pretty sure I'm holding this on a slight angle, slightly intentionally and slightly just because I am. But I hear streetcar behind me, so I'm hoping streetcar will hurry up and pass me at some point here so I can pan the camera over to that and see how well Hyperlapse will process motion blur. Because, yeah, if Hyperlapse does a good enough job, for the most part, I'm happy with the picture quality of the Nex 5. So I don't have too much of an incentive right now to really go out and get one of the fancy new handy cams that has the better steady shot where the lens actually moves around, which is what it does on the iPhone 6 Plus as well for additional stabilization, even though it does look pretty damn good. I've seen video from that and it does look really, really good. But if I were to get a new camera, I would probably actually look at the Sony RX1, because that is some absolutely phenomenal picture quality, both still and video. But I don't know if it has that fancy new stabilization with the lens moving thing. Even if it doesn't, it shoots beautiful video. But I think that's over $1,000, so it's kind of out of my price range right now. So I think here we'll walk under the Orange Line viaduct, which is that unimpressive looking thing there, since that probably has a bit better lighting than the street. And it also is a pretty much straight shot down. It's a pretty consistent gradient. I'm pretty sure that was a zebra striped limo. So the green in the far background, that's Telecom Crossing, which will be the last bit to walk over. The streetcar is probably secretly happy right now that I got him a green light. And now we switch hands. Oh, there goes the James Bond car. That's 007. So, I don't know, to me it looks like the lights under the viaduct are brighter than what's on the street. I don't think those are LED though, which the Tillicum crossing itself actually is. That's 100% LED. Yeah, so this is also kind of the full version of my typical evening walk when the weather's nice enough and it's not raining. Lately I've resorted to having to use the gym in the apartment because the weather's been kind of crappy. So, some of the points of interest down here, so that is River Place over there. That's a bunch of apartments and stuff over there. That's the Residence Inn by Marriott. There's still quite a bit of development going on down here, just in River Place and South Waterfront in general. And then there's tons of development going on and the northern end of the Pearl. They're literally building entirely new communities up there. There's just entire blocks of construction, which is kind of incredible. It certainly dwarfs the Haslow on 8, which was redevelopment over in the Lloyd district, where it was 3 new apartment buildings, and they literally built up an entire new plaza and everything, and it looks pretty good now that it's done. But it probably still has a lot of leasing to go. It's still kind of a dead area. So unfortunately, TriMet hasn't taken me up on my suggestion yet of making Tillicum crossing blue, white, and red for France. They probably won't anyway, but it's an idea I had that thought it would be interesting to do. And now we get to wait at yet another light. Although, thank God for streetcar, because streetcar does get priority. That's kind of both the upside and the downside to when you're walking along the streets here in Portland that the MAX and streetcar travel along, because a lot of the streets, namely with the MAX along 5th and 6th Avenue, you have what are called preempts, where when the train is coming, the traffic signals automatically change to give the train the equivalent of a green light, and it incidentally also gives vehicular traffic and pedestrian traffic a green light as well. So if you're walking and a train's coming up, you've got as many green lights in a row as you can keep up with the train. So if you're jogging, you can just keep on jogging. You should still look before you cross, of course. But on the downside, as soon as the train gets past you, then you have a red light every single time you get to a crossing. So anyway, it is actually a beautiful night out here in Portland. I'm unzipping my jacket because I'm actually hot. It got up to the 60s today, which was a pretty nice change, although it's been a pretty mild autumn so far. It certainly hasn't gone below freezing yet, Although we did at one point have a winter storm watch, which was kind of interesting. But so far, very pleasant weather. I don't know what things are like back on the East Coast this year, but certainly a nice change from the pretty cold weather over there. Granted, it still doesn't beat Australia. I think Melbourne today was apparently 82 Fahrenheit. Alrighty. Well, anyway, now we are down in the South Waterfront District. That's one of OHSU's buildings there. That big thing with no lights on it is the dentistry clinics and school. This is the Collaborative Life Sciences building over here. And this is probably the single most complicated traffic crossing in all of Portland, as far as I know, because the signals here have to deal with pedestrians, streetcar, max, buses, and bikes. So, it was pretty buggy when it was first implemented, but it's finally got most of the kinks worked out. Finally.
Southwest at quarter. Wait.
Granted, of course, as soon as I say they've got most of the kinks worked out, the pedestrian signal malfunctions. It was not supposed to do that.
Southwest.
And one of the other kind of hilarious bits about the crossing here is any traffic coming from the bridge, if the signal for that is green for the buses and bikes, it will actually temporarily do a full signal cycle to bring up the preempt for max and streetcar.
Southwest.
It's the only crossing that I know of where it doesn't just simply turn the preempt on if the rest of the signals are already green. So I don't know if it's a bug or what, but on the upside, when you see the signals cycling and you see the preempt blinking at the same time and you're still coming off the bridge, that's when you know to start running or you're going to miss your train. Anyway, now we are on Tillicum Crossing, which the lighting here I'm hoping will be the brightest yet, since it's all LED. So this is where I'll be curious to see if Hyperlapse does a better job of stabilizing than the rest, because I don't know how much lighting is going to play into effect of everything, since it doesn't just recognize the Nex 5, because I don't think the Nex 5 has all of the sensors that it can read information from. So, unlike Tillicum Crossing, the Moda Center, which is there, roughly, granted, I don't know what its normal colors are, it does appear to be sporting blue, white, and red this evening. Well, and we have a train coming, because that squeaking bit was the points changing. So, granted I haven't been on the bridge for, I think, 2 nights or so now. They did finally fix the bugged lights on the other side of the bridge, which for several nights were showing just a solid blue, which they were not supposed to be showing because that wasn't the other colors being shown on the bridge. And then once they fixed the blue, they just started to start flashing all of their colors, so you had some really great strobe lights, which I'm sure the bus max and streetcar operators all loved having, flashing them in the face as they were coming down the bridge. I'm sure the union had a field day with that. So, yeah, now, as hopefully you can see, this is pretty well lit up with all the LEDs, and especially with the incoming Type 5 that we've got here. So to round out the experiment, oh, that's still got the Siemens celebratory livery on it. Well, walk along both sides of the bridge, and on this side I'll show the bridge, obviously, and some of the pitch blackness of the southern end, and then back to the bridge. And then when we're on the other side, we'll see how well Hyperlapse stabilizes the cityscape of downtown Portland. So the other thing that was also recently finished on the bridge is all the information plaques are finally in. So on this side, we have a bunch of politicians' names being thanked for making the bridge possible. And then we have even more responsible parties of getting the bridge done. Incidentally, those were the first completed plaques installed, other than the one that was there on opening day on the other side of the bridge, celebrating the innovativeness of the bridge. And it looks like we've got several lights out today, which I didn't notice when I was on here a couple hours ago. But the information plaques are actually pretty nice, because they do give the technical specifications of the bridge, and it is a really neat, innovative bridge. And what they've done, besides the fact that it's the first of its kind in the U.S., where there's no private vehicles on it. And then there's also another plaque that goes over the history of the Tillamook, I think, Indians, where the word Tillicum comes from. And then there's also another plaque that talks about all of the other bridges in Portland, which is nice, because now I finally know my bridges in Portland. Granted, I know when I'm actually looking at the image and figuring out what bridge I'm currently looking at. Yeah. Tillicum Crossing is really easy, because it's the only one that's lit up like this. And then the Hawthorne Bridge and the Steel Bridge are both really easy, because they're both drawbridges. And the Steel Bridge, you can tell which one that is, because that's the one that has all the trains going over it, in addition to it being a drawbridge. Everything else, no idea what it is. I think the one over there is the Ross Island Bridge, and yeah, I forget what the two immediately over there are. So this is the end. That when the lights did finally come back on for a couple days, there were no lights on the bridge at all, other than the white LEDs. This was blue in part of the segment, and then down here he had a bunch of lights being strobe lights. So, as I mentioned, there are the tech specs of the bridge, and that's actually something that I thought really neat. I just thought that these bump outs here were because it bumped out because of, you know, the giant column, and it does in part, but it does so that there's actually no right angles. It's not simply just because it bumps out. It's actually to cut down on wind, which I thought was pretty cool. So here's what controls the lighting on the bridge. So yes, you can in fact put science and art together, and science, in my opinion, is an art in its own right. And this is the result when you put those two together. You get something pretty incredible. And this is what you're not supposed to do if you're a bike, which is go the wrong way on the bridge. If you're a pedestrian, you can go on either side, but not if you're a bike. So that building there is the Portland Opera building. They're on the 3rd floor. I'm not sure who's on the 1st floor, but I know the 2nd floor is all classical Portland. And in the corner there is the Telecam, which gives you a 24-hour view of the Telecom crossing. And I think they've even embedded the all classical Portland audio stream into the video stream now as well. So you can go to allclassical.org if you ever want to see the bridge on demand. So another very interesting thing about the Telecom crossing that I actually forgot to show as we were crossing over in this direction is bike traffic in this direction is still in the 5 digits. There's only been about 80,000 trips this direction, but going towards Portland, which I will show you the sign for, has actually broken 100,000 trips now. And that, I think, is the last A-loop of the night, since it's 10:30. And that's also one of the Incheon trams. Alrighty, so we shall cross over and see how well Hyperlapse does on the other side of the bridge when I show you the bridge and downtown Portland, and then that'll about do it. And we'll see how things turn out. So if you've stuck it out for the 30-minute mark, which we're about to pass, and so I will cut and start back up again, since the next 5 will actually cap recording at 30 minutes. Yeah, if you've stuck it out for the 30 minutes, thanks for sticking it out for the 30 minutes, because I'm sure this isn't a terribly interesting tech demo of what Hyperlapse can do, as well as a view of Portland. So as I was saying, which I forgot to show, well over 100,000 trips on this side, and the way that sign works is this, which is inductive loop. It works similar to how the Max gets its signals, in that when you run over it, it sends a signal. I think for bikes it's probably also partially weighted. But anyway, yeah, it's kind of interesting that there's a lot more bike traffic going into Portland than there is coming out. Granted, this is still Portland, so I guess I should say going to the west side of the river rather than traffic coming to the east side. So I wonder if a lot of people going to OHSU kind of commute on their bike over to OHSU and then coming back take the train. I don't know. I honestly don't know how to account for a discrepancy of 20,000. But anyway, there's downtown Portland. So I can certainly see we're bobbing along quite a bit here. So if Hyperlapse actually can smooth that out without too much blur, I will certainly be impressed. Because I think that's probably one of the harder shots to do. I know Instagram's Hyperlapse will do a very nice blur on that, rather than actually being pretty smooth. Whereas here, where we've got plenty of light, I'm hoping it'll be pretty smooth and not very jittery like YouTube's stabilization feature, which is the absolute worst. If I used any at all, I would use Final Cuts, but even that can have problems. So, here's a plaque talking about some of the art along the bridge, as well as the story behind the name. And if you want to read that, pause, assuming I can get a focus on it. I don't think the Nex will focus on it, because it wants to focus on the light, so sorry about that. But anyway, that's another nice thing about the orange line, is it's kind of an art gallery in motion, in that TriMet has art of some kind anyway. As far as I know, every single station, I gotta go pick up a copy of the Orange Line art guide from the ticket office at Pioneer Courthouse on Monday, since I can't figure out what I did with my copy from opening day. Yeah. So, again, there's downtown Portland. That bunch of lights there may or may not be the Portland Spirit. It might just be the Maritime Museum. But over there is UMSI. There's the Sub. The Marriott is over there somewhere, basically where that red smear is. And that's River Place down there. Then at the top of the hill there is the OHSU campus, as well as the VA and a couple children's hospitals. And then those are no doubt extremely expensive apartment and condos. One of those towers is actually called the Mirabella, which I had always thought was in downtown Portland, because apparently they sponsor a streetcar stop. So, you know, streetcar, you can sponsor a stop, and we'll say this stop sponsored by insert name here. And in the case of the Mirabella, it's Mirabella Stylish Senior Living. And I always thought, all right, well, it's just a nice fancy apartment high-rise complex in downtown. And no, it's actually one of those towers right on the riverfront, and it's a beautiful building from the exterior. So stylish senior living indeed. I don't know what it looks like inside, but outside it's fancier than the fancy senior living place that we had back home in New Jersey, which I am completely drawing a blank on what the heck its name was. But it was fancy. Yep, so there's another glimpse at downtown. And more of the telecom doing its bridge thing. And one of these plaques, I think it's this one, yes it is. There are all of the bridges in Portland as well as the year that they were built. And so this plaque that's here has been here since opening day, which talks about the innovations on the bridge. Alright, well, that I think will about do it. It'll be very interesting to see how this turns out, see how good of a job Hyperlapse does on it. And now that I think about it, unless I stitch these two videos together in Final Cut and export them with the crust dissolve in the middle of them, the Hyperlapse logo, watermark thing, end cap, whatever it'll do will appear twice, so there'll be a couple things to fix in post. Anyway, that's it.